Hello, everybody. Back again, reading a book, chapter 2. Last time we left off, we talked about their sins and how they're never ending in hell. Each one of them has their own demon that has their own consequences. Gonna be quite honest, it's been a while since I read the first chapter, so don't really remember most of it. Do know that we're entering at least the main character of what we assume, or who we assume is the main character is gonna enter the Force, who has the sin of fighting. I'm. Uh, Vengeance? Anger? God, one of the demons. I'm in a good mood because my computer was not picking up audio for the longest time, and I was trying to figure it out. And I found out it was because I had a dang app that could not be updated, and because it could not be updated, my whole computer decided to shut off everything until this one thing could be updated. So I just deleted it. Everything fixed itself. Now, here we go. Chapter 2. That is a hard name. Ashlyn Darrow shivered against the frigid wind. Strands of light brown hair whipped in front of her eyes. She hooked them behind her throbbing ears with a shaky hand. Not that she could see much anyway. The night was black, thick with fog and snowflakes. Only a few golden silvers of moonlight were strong enough to peek through the towering snow-capped trees. How could a landscape so beautiful be so damaging to the human body? She sighed, misforming in front of her face. She could have been relaxing on a flight back to the States, but yesterday she had learned something too wonderful to resist. Hope had filled her, and earlier that evening she had raced here without thought, without hesitation, seizing her first chance to find out if they were true. Somewhere in the vastness of this forest were men with strange abilities no one seemed able to explain exactly they could do. She didn't know, she only knew that. So gonna take a little bit of a pause here. That seems like a reckless idea. If you knew these people had abilities, you probably know they don't want to be found, or that you're probably gonna get hurt in trying to find them. But hey, let's continue. She needed help desperately, and she had to risk anything and everything to speak with those powerful men. Mm. Uh, blah, blah, blah. She couldn't live with the voices anymore. Ashlyn had only to stand in one location and hear every conversation that had ever taken place there, no matter how much time had passed, present, past, and all languages. It doesn't matter, she could hear them in her mind, translate them, even um translate them even. A gift, some assumed. A nightmare, she knew. Another chill wind beat against her, and she leaned against a tree, using it as a shield. Yes, yesterday, when she had come to Budapest with several colleagues from the world estate of physiology, it stood in the center of town and began hearing tributes of dialogue. Nothing new for her until she'd gathered the meaning of the words. They can enslave you with a glance. One of them has wings that flies with the moon when the moon is full. The scarred one can disappear at will. If those whispers had opened some sort of doorway in her mind, hundreds of years of chatter had slammed into her. A blend of old and new, she doubled over from the intensity of it, trying to sort the mundane from the essential. They never aged. They must be angels. Even their home is creepy, straight out from a horror movie, hidden on a hilltop, shadowy corners, and damn, even the birds won't go near it. Should we kill them? They're magical. They erase my torment. So many people present and past evidently believed these men operated beyond human ability. They possessed extraordinary skills. Was it possible that men could help her erase my torment? Someone had said, maybe they can erase mine. Ashland muttered now. Over the years, in all the corners of the world, she listened to rumors of vampires, werewolves, goblins, witches, gods and goddesses, demons and angels, monsters and fairies. She had even led the Institute researchers to many of these creatures' doorsteps, proving they did in fact exist. The whole purpose of the Institute, after all, was to locate and observe and study paranormal beings and determine how they would benefit from their existence. And for once, working as a para-audiologist might prove to be her salvation as well. So, what I find kind of interesting about that page is that they were talking about how or the humans in the past were talking about how they could be angels and all these magical things, and then one of them just says, "Yeah, we should kill them." It's like, didn't you just mention that they were very powerful? Or I don't know if they mentioned they could have been another voice, but that just doesn't seem like a good idea. Oddly enough, she hadn't led the Institute to Budapest, as was usually the case with a new assignment. She hadn't heard a word about Budapest. In fact, any of the recent conversations she had tapped into, but they had brought her here anyway, asking her to listen for any discussion about demons. She knew better than to ask why. The answer's no matter the question was always the same, classified. When she had done as ordered, she had learned that few of the locals considered the men living on top of the hill to be demons. Evil, wicked, most, however, considered them angels, angels who kept to themselves. All but one. That one is who repeatedly liked betting anything female and had been dubbed the Big O instructor by a giggling trio who had spent a single glorious night with him. Angels who thought through their presence alone kept the crime levels low. Angels who poured money into the community and made sure the homeless were fed. Ashlyn herself doubted such a do-gooders were possessed. Demons were invariably malicious, unconcerned with those around them. But whether the men were angels living on earth or simply ordinary people capable of doing extraordinary things, she prayed they could help her as no one else had been able to. She prayed they could teach her how to block the voices or even help strip her ability completely. The thought was intoxicating, and her lips lifted in a slow smile. The smile quickly faded, however, as another blast of wind cut through her jacket sweater and swept into her skin. She'd been out here for more than about an hour and was chilled to the bone, stopping to rest again. She hadn't been the smartest of plan. This hadn't been the smartest of plans. Her gaze climbed the hill through a break in the clouds. A sudden ray of amber light poured down, a luminescent and massive charcoal-colored castle. Mist curled from the bottom, beckoning her with ghostly fingers. The place looked exactly as she the voice had said. She moused, shadowed and spiked along the top. A horror movie came to life. That didn't deter her. Quite the opposite. I'm almost there, she thought, happily once again trudging uphill. Her thighs already burned limb from dodging limbs and jumping over elevated routes, but she didn't care. She kept moving until 10 minutes later she found herself stopping from the thousandth time, unable to walk another step of her shaky, tired thighs. So, what do we take away from those 2 pages? This woman is crazy. That's what we take away. I would not be doing this. I don't know if y'all be doing this, but I would not be doing this. This is not my cup of tea. Morphed into blocks of ice. No, she moaned. Not now. Rubbing her legs to warm them. She studied the distance again. Her eyes widened when she realized that the castle didn't appear any closer. In fact, it might have been further away. Ashlyn shook her head in astonished despair. Damn it, what did she have to do to reach the place? Sprout wings and fly? Even if I fail, I don't regret coming here. The no provisions and no planning part, yeah, she regretted that, but she had had to try, no matter how foolish, she simply had to try. She would have made the journey naked and barefooted if necessary, anything for a chance at normalcy. She loved that she had helped safeguard the world with her gag gift, but the moment she endured was too much. Surely there was another way for her to help. With a little silence, she might be able to think of how deep breathing exercises and meditation only did so much for her peace of mind. She rubbed her legs more frequently, the menstruations finally melting some of the initial cold ice and spurring her back into motion. Okay, tick tock, tock, tock. Okay, tick, tick, tock, okay. She heard as she stepped up past a hunched gnarled tree. They're here, her mind instantly translated. I know they are. And someone else said, Aren't you a pretty thing? Yes, I am, thank you, she said, hoping the sound of her own voice would overshadow the others. It didn't. Uh, Deep breath in, deep breath out. She continued to slow forward. Different conversations from different time periods drifted to awareness, sticking one on top of the other in her mind. Most were spoken in Hungarian, some in English. That made him all the more jumbled. Blah. Yes, yes. Yes, yes. Touch me. Yes, there. Bertrol and I'm sorry. I'm sorry for anybody who speaks Hungarian. And I mean, I doubt that I'm gonna have a commenter that speaks Hungarian, but Inom Tom, one more taste of his lips and I'll forget him. I just need one more taste. Ashlyn stumbled over the twigs and rocks, the words blending together, growing louder. Still, her heart drummed in her chest. She barely refrained from screaming in frustration. Deep breath in, deep breath. If you knock on the door, you'll be freak. If you knock on the door, you'll be F-worded like an animal, and I guarantee you'll love every minute of it. She covered her ears, even though she knew that wouldn't work either. Keep going, fine. Am I gonna censor myself for this? No, wait, I put 18 plus on there. I can clearly not be censored for this. Why am I censoring myself for this? More wind, more voices. Keep going, she repeated, the words chaining in harmony with her footsteps. She came all the way she could make it a little further, find them. She told Dr. Melcher, vice president of the institute, as well as her boss and mentor, what she learned about the man. He had given her a brief nod and brisk, well done. Well, his highest form of praise, and she'd asked to be taken to Chichu atop the imposing hill. Not a chance, he said, turning away from her. They could be demons. Some of the local paint them, or they could be very bold angels. Most of the locals consider them. You're not going to risk it, Doro. That's when he had ordered her to pack her bags and ready the car for her departure to the airport. Just as he always did when her part of the job providing the ears was done. It was a standard agency procedure. He always claimed he had never sent the rest of the older workers home, just her. I just cared about her and wanted her safe. She knew that, after all, she had seen her take care of him more than 15 years, taking her under his wing, which she'd been scared child whose parents hadn't known how to ease their gifted daughter's torment. He had even read her fairy tales to teach her that the world was a place of magic and endless possibilities, a place where nobody, not even someone like her, had to feel awed. While he did care, she also knew her ability was important to his career. The Institute would not be half as effective without her, and that as a result she was something of a pawn in his eyes. That's why she didn't feel too guilty for sneaking here the moment his back was turned. Fingers now, fingers numb, Ashley once again smoothed her hair from her face. Maybe should have taken time to ask the locals for the best route, but the voices had been too loud, too incapacitating. Uh, incapacit. I know the word, I just can't speak it at this moment. In the heart of the city, more than that, she'd been afraid of the institute employee would see her and take her in. Might have been worth taking her chances, though, to avoid the deliberating cold. There's one way to learn the truth. Stab one in the heart and see if it dies, I've always said, snagging her attention. Oh, that feels good. Please more. Distracted, Ashlyn tripped over a fallen limb. Down she tumbled, landing with a pained grasp. Sharp rocks branded her palms and scratched at her jean. For a long while, she didn't move. Couldn't. Too cold, she thought. Too loud. As she lay there, her strength seemed to drain completely. Her templates dropped. The voice still bombarding her, closing her eyes. She pulled the lapels of her jacket and managed to crawl to and huddle against the base of the tree. We shouldn't be here. They see everything. Are you hurt? Look what I found. Isn't it pretty? Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, she shouted. Of course the voices didn't listen to her. They never did. Dare you run through the trees naked? I'm sorry. I hope I don't get cancelled in 20 to 3 years because I decided to make weird noises when it comes to Hungarian. I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't think it's correct to skip over the Hungarian text because I feel like it's important to the story even though I can't pronounce it correctly. Uh, a pop and a wheeze suddenly sounded and her eyelids sprung open. Next there was a tortured scream, a man's scream, quickly followed by three others. Present, not past. After 24 years, she knew the difference. Tears snaked her iron grip, squeezing breath out of her. Even though the chattering of voices, she heard the sickening thud. She tried to stand to run, but a sudden whoosh of air held her in place. No, not air. She realized a second later that but a blade. Her entire body jerked in surprise as the hilt of a blood-coated knife swayed just above her shoulder, embedded in the tree bark. Before she had time to scramble away to scream, there was another whoosh, another jerk. Ashlyn's attention swung to the other side. Sure enough, a second blade was rested just above her shoulder to the left. How, what? The thoughts hadn't yet fully formed when something burst from a nearby thicket. Brittle leaves clashed together in an ominous dance. The snow that had covered them sprinkling the ground as limb slumped and shook. Then the something raced past a ray of moonlight, and she caught a glimpse of black hair, radiant violent eyes, and a man, a big muscled man, was charging toward her at this top speed. Oh, his expression was pure brutality. Oh my god. She grasped. Stop, stop, stop. Suddenly he was there, right in her face, crouching, hitting her in place, stiffening her neck. They were hunters, he said in a lightly accented English, his voice as harsh, as rough, as rugged. Features, are you? He grabbed her right wrist and peeled back the material of her jacket and sweater. He ran his thumb over the pulse there, no tattoo like they had. Uh, they hunters tattoo? A terminal cartwheeled down her spine. The intruder was huge, hulking, his muscular frame surrounding her with menace. A metallic tongue drifted, mixed with fragrance of man and heat, something she couldn't identify. Up close, she could see the splatter of red on his too harsh face, blood. The biting wind, she seemed to slither past her skin into the marrow of her bones, savage. The look in his violent eyes said, "Predator." Maybe I should have listened to Malcolm. I cannot talk today. Maybe the man really are demons. Are you one of them? The man repeated. Shocked to her core, frightened beyond belief, it took a moment to realize something was different. The air, the temperature, the voice said stop. Her eyes widened in astonishment. The voice said stop as if they were actually congruent of the man's presence and were afraid of him as she was. Silence enveloped her. No, it wasn't utter silence as she expected, she decided a moment later, but rather quiet, magnificent, blissful quiet. How long since she had known such a thing untainted by the conversation she had ever had? When rustled and leaves, had anything ever sounded as magnificent as nature's symphony? In a moment she forgot her fear. How could this man possessed by demons when he came with such lovely quiet? Demons were source of torment, not peace. Was an angel of mercy then, as the locals assumed? Closing her eyes in delight, drank in that she drank in that peace, revealed and embraced it. Woman, the angel said, confusion radiating from his voice. Hush, commanded. Hush. Um, Contentment skipped through her. Uh, Even at home in North Carolina, in a home she had been built. Don't speak, just enjoy. For a moment, he didn't reply. You dare tell me to hush? Greenpoint said, angry surprise in his tone. Still talking, Ashlyn, astonished, then pressed her lips together. Angel or not, he didn't strike her as the kind person should scold. Besides, angering him was the last thing she wanted. His presence brought silence, his delicious warmth, and realized that the chill rapidly left her body. Slowly, he cracked open her eyelids. They were nose to nose, his blindly breath taking over her lips. Skin glowed like smooth copper, almost otherworldly in the moonlight. All hard angels and fierce plains. His face boasted a sharp blade nose, like at the devil's hard eyebrows. Those predatory purple eyes bored into her, somehow all the more menacing, framed as they were by long feathered lashes. I'll kill anyone, anywhere. This Christian seemed to say. Demon? No, not a demon. She reminded herself. The silence was too good, too pure and right. But he was not an angel, after all. She decided he brought the quiet, yes, but he was clearly dangerous as he was beautiful. Anyone could throw blades like that. So what was he? Anyone who could throw blades like that. So what was he? Ashlyn gulped, studied him. Um, Ashlyn gulped and studied him. Her pulse should not have fluttered just then, and her and her breast should not have a heat. But it did. They did. He was just like the dragons in fairy tales. Malcolm had read to her, too lethal to tame, too mesmerizing to walk away from, and yet she suddenly wanted to bury her hand in the hollow of his neck. What? Hi- What? How does that make sense? Bury her head in the hollow of his neck. Wanted to wrap herself around him, wanted to hold him, and never let go. She even found herself leaning toward him, every intention of giving in those wants. Stop, don't. Most of her life, human touch had been denied at first. At 5, she'd been sent to the institute where most of her employees hadn't concerned themselves with anything other than studying her ability. Malcolm was the closest thing she had ever had to a friend, but even he had not hugged or touched her often, as if he feared her as much as he cared for her. Dating, too, was tough. Men sort of freaked out when they learned her ability, and they always learned there was no way to hide it. But if he was a man who was what she thought he was, he might not care about her little talent. might let her touch him, and touching him in his heat might very well prove to be a potent sensation as silence, yet so much more. Or you just met this man and you're already thinking of dating him. Or maybe I misinterpreted that wrong, but that's what I got. Women, he repeated, the word husky now, wine rich as it cut into her thoughts. She froze, gulped again. Was that desire flickering as an icy violet icicle? I read that too quickly. Completely obliterating that Moscow gaze, or was that the desire she saw born of pain and brutality? Her death immediate. A swarm of emotions bombarded her. Another class. Morbid awe and yes, feminine curiosity. She had little experience with men, and even less with desire. What had she been thinking, leaning towards him like that? She might have viewed her touch as an invitation, might have touched her in return. Why didn't the mere thought send her into heretics? Um, into I'm just gonna go with her. Um, hysterics. Oh, there we go. Perhaps because she might be wrong. Perhaps because she wasn't a dragon. Because he wasn't a dragon after all. But the prince who stayed, who That's stayed. That's not slayed. That they rode. They misspelled something. Who s- who slayed the dragon to save the princess? What's your name? She found herself asking. A tension-filled second ticked by, and then another, and she assumed he wasn't going to answer. Lines of strain brackened the rough features. As though being near her was a chore, finally he said, Matix. I am called Matix. Matix. Maddox. The name slipped and slid throughout the corridors of her mind, a seductive chant that promised unimaginable st- I know the word. Satisfaction. Okay. She forced herself to smile in greeting. I'm Ashlyn Darrow. His attention devoted to her lips despite the snow beads of sweat broke over his forehead, glistening. You should not have come, Ashlyn Darrow. Nor losing all hint of desire. He had both financed and feared. But he traced his hands up her arms, surprisingly gentle, and stopped at the base of her neck. Gingerly his thumb tipped over her throat, lingering, wildly thumping pulse. She sucked in her breath and swallowed it, his fingers moving with emotion as Eunice unintentionally yet wholly erotic caress that liquefied her entire body. But a moment later, his grip tightened, almost hurting. Bro, he is choking you, physically, thumb in your throat. How is that erotic? Actually, some people find that kinky, but at this moment, you have two knives, two swords, knives, whatever, to your right shoulder and your left shoulder. He is clearly pissed off, and your first thought's like, eroticness. So, bro, come on. She sucked in a breath and swallowed it, his fingers moving with the motion. A unintentional yet no, yeah, I already read that. She gasped out a raspy please. He released her completely. Eshlin blinked in surprise. Without his touch, she felt perfect. Dangerous, he said, this time in Hungarian. She wasn't sure if he meant himself or her. Are you one of them? He asked softly, not switching languages herself. No reason to let him know she spoke them both. Astonishment darkened his gaze, and a muscle ticked his jaw. What do you mean, one of them? English this time. Aye, the words refused to form. Fury was blinkening his features, more fury than she had ever seen another person project. You messed up! Repeat! It radiated from every contour of his head body. She drew her arms all around her middle. Not a no, not a prince after all. A dragon, definitely, she had first assumed. Remaining on her knees, she inched away from her. He inched away from her in a measured breath and slowly released it. There, mistening around his face, his hand hovered over the opening of his boot as if he couldn't decide whether to reach inside or not. Finally, he said, What are you doing in these woods, woman? And do not lie to me, I'll know it, and you will not like my response. Ashlyn somehow found her voice. I'm looking for the men who live at the top of this hill. Why? A single word was sped out. How much should she reveal? It was one of the men with strange abilities. Had to be. He was too vibrant, too powerful to be solely human, but more than that, his mere presence had somehow chased the voices away. Um, that had never happened to her before. I need hope, she admitted. Do you? There was a conflicting mix of suspicion and indolence in her response. With what? She opened her mouth to say what. She didn't know in the end. It didn't matter. He stopped her with a quick shake of his head. Never mind. You aren't welcome here. So your explanation is mute. Return to the city whenever you came here. You will not receive. But she couldn't allow him to send her away. She needed him. Yes, she'd only just met him. Yes, the only thing she knew about him were the name and the fact that he threw daggers with expert precision. But she was already horrified at the thought of losing the silence. I want to stay with you. She knew the suspicion seeped from her and didn't care. Please, just a little while until I learn how to control the voices myself. Instead of softening, he seemed infuriated by her plea. Nostalgia flared. His nostrils flared and a muscle ticked in his jaw. Your babbling will not distract me. You're a, you're a bait. You are bait. You have to be, otherwise you would be running from me in fear. I'm not bait, whatever bait was. Swear to God. She reached out and gripped his forearms in a flash and saw it unbelievably hot and utterly electrifying underneath his skin. Tangers spread her arm. I don't even know what you're talking about. Quick as snap, he slashed out the hand and caught the base of her skull, jerking her forward into the beam of the moonlight. The action didn't hurt her. On the contrary, she experienced another electrifying jolt. Her stomach quivered. She didn't speak. She just studied her with an intensity that bordered on cruelty. She studied him too. She shocked as something began to flash, swirl, materialize under his skin. A face. She realized with mascara another face. Her heart stopped. A beat. Can't be a demon. Can't be a demon. He made the voice stop. And the others be done wonderful things for the city. It's just a trick of the light. Just a trick. While she could still see Maddox's features, she could also see the shadows of someone, something else. Red glowing eyes, skeptical cheekbones, sharp as daggers' teeth. Please be a trick of the light. But the more the skeptical hunter stared at her, the less she could pretend it was an illusion. Do you want to die, Maddox, or the skeleton demanded the words so Glenfro that they were barely more than an animalistic growl. No, he could kill her, but she'd die with a smile. 2 minutes of silence were worth uh, more than her than a lifetime of noise. Scared but determined, and still tingling because of her fever touch, she raised her chin. I need your help. Tell me how to control my power, and I'll leave you here and now, or let me stay with you and learn how it's done. He released her and reached for her again, then stopped and fisted his hands. I do not know why I'm hesitating, he said, even as his eyes hit her mouth, and what might have been longing. Midnight is closing in, and you need to be far away from me as possible. The moment the last word left me, he frowned. A second later, he barked. Too late. Pain is searching for me. He inched away from her, and skeptical mask still flashing behind her. Run, go back to the city now. No, she said with the slightest tremble. Only a fool ran from heaven, even if that piece of heaven possessed a transparent face straight from hell. Come on, man. That's not it. Cursing under his breath, Maddox jerked two blades from the tree and pushed his feet. His gaze lifted skyward, past the snow treetops, half the moon. His frown became fierce, angry. Step he backed away. Aisling used the trees as leverage and stood her knees knocked together, nearly collapsing under her weight. Suddenly, she could feel the icy wind again. He could hear the whisper of the chatter closing in on her. A cry of despair rose inside her. 3 steps, 4. Where are you going? She asked. Don't leave me here. No time to take you to shelter. You'll have to find it on your own. He whirled around, giving her a vow of his, giving her a view of his wide shoulders and stiff retreating back before throwing over his shoulders. Do not return to this hill, woman. Next time you will not find me so generous. I'm not going back. Wherever you go, I'll follow. A threat, yes, but one she intended to uphold. Maddox stopped and whipped to face her, baring his teeth to another fearsome scrawl. I could kill you here and now, Bates, as I know I should. How would you follow me then? Bates again, her heart drummed erratically in her chest, but she met his stare, dead. On opening, she appeared stubborn and determined rather than simply petrified. Believe me, I'd rather you do so than leave me alone with the voices. Curse, a hiss of pain, he doubled over, losing her bravado. In the face of concern, Ashley raced to him. She spiraled her fingers over the back in search for injury. Anything that crumpled with hulking beasts had to be excruciating. He shoved her away, however, she stumbled from unexpected force. No, he said, and she would have sworn he spoke with two separate voices, one a man, the second something so much more powerful. It boomed like a thunderstorm, echoing in the night. No touching. Are you hurt? She righted herself, trying not to reveal just how badly his actions had cut. Maybe I can help. I leave or die. He spun and kept forward, disappearing into the night. Chatter crashed into her mind as if it had merely been awaiting his departure. Now it seemed louder than ever before, blaring after the precious silence. Hungarian text is next, and I'm not going to read it. Stumbling in the same direction Maddox had taken, Ashlyn covered her ears. Wait, she moaned. Shut up, wait, please. The foot tangled with a broken limb, and she topped again in the ground, and a sharp ache tore through her ankle. Whimpering, she dragged herself her hands and knees and crawled. Hungarian. She couldn't stop and had to reach him. Would be Wind beat against her, sharp as daggers Maddox carried, and on the voices clamored. Please, she cried, please. A fierce roar splintered the night, shaking the ground, rattling the trees. Suddenly Maddox was beside her again, drowning out the voices. Foolish bait, spat more to himself. Yet a foolish warrior. Crying out in relief, she threw her arms around him, holding him tight, never wanting to let go, even if he did still wear the eerie skeletal mask. Tears streamed down her cheeks, crystallizing on her skin. Thank you for coming back. Thank you. She buried her head in the hollow of his neck, exactly as she'd wanted to do earlier. When her cheek brushed his bare skin, she shivered those warm tingle rushing through her once, and you'll come to regret this, he said, swiping her up and over his shoulders like a sack of potatoes. She didn't care. She was with him. The voices were gone, and that was all that mattered. Maddox sped into motion, maneuvering around those ghostly trees. Every so often, he grunted as in pain, snarled as if the reed Jocelyn begged him to set her down so that she could spare him the burden of her weight. But he squeezed the inside of her thigh, a slight command for her to shut the hell up. Finally, she relaxed against him and simply enjoyed the ride. If only the joy could have lasted. That is it for chapter 2. 30 minutes, dang. The next chapter is a lot shorter, actually, than the second chapter. So, Maddox. Pain is coming out, and the woman is not leaving him. I wonder if she will somehow be able to control him, like make him not go insane, or if the story's gonna turn somewhere else and make it so he can, like he doesn't feel it at all, like they cancel each other out. But then this makes me wonder. These two are obviously gonna be love interests for a fact. They do have a lot of other sins. Wonder if they will get jealous and stuff like that. Okay, that's all for today. Make sure to like and subscribe, leave a comment down below, and check out our other social medias that we use. Peace.